Hello devs, on today's video we are going to learn the basics of ReactJS while building a real project from scratch, even if you know nothing about React. We will learn about functions, states, hooks, and at the end of this video you have built a real project for you to remember these concepts in the future and also use it as a project in your portfolio. This video is part of a series where we will learn more complex things about React. And if you want to become a React app builder, subscribe to this channel right now and let's do this together. Let's go. Before we get started, let's just quickly talk about ReactJS. This is the official documentation, react.dev, so if you didn't see, go and check it out. It's always important to check the official documentations. React is a library for web and native user interfaces. This means that you can use it to create websites, applications, web applications. You create user interfaces from components, so you create small components, and from these components you build your apps. It means that you write components with code and markup. So take a look at this part here. We have a box, and inside this box we have this heading, and also we have this video component. So we have a big box and we have boxes inside this box. This is important for you when you think about React. You should think in boxes, and I will explain this more very quickly in a minute. Also, you can add interactivity wherever you need it. So with components, you can add behavior based on what the user is doing. So this is what ReactJS is. We talked about boxes, and it's important for you to understand that. So for that, I have my YouTube page here for us to use as an example. Let's imagine the whole page as a box. This is important. So the whole page is a box, and then we have boxes inside this box. So we can have this as the side panel, is a little box. Then we have this component here, the YouTube logo with the menu icon here is another box. Inside this little box we could also have this other one here, and each one of these components is a smaller box, a component. So when we are developing in React, we should think about this. We should think things, components as boxes. The same way here, we could have a bigger one that is the main content page. We could call that. Inside this main content page, we will have the banner as a box, or we can have it like this as a header. And inside the header, we have the banner. Inside the banner component, we have the YouTuber information component, and inside the YouTuber information component we have other boxes. So just for you to understand, when we think about React, we think about components, and components we can translate to boxes. This makes it easier to understand when you have to develop, when you have a design. You think about boxes and you can start building by parts, then you put them together and it becomes your web page. And if you want to know more about this, you can easily come to the documentation here and you say thinking in React. It explains this about boxes. You can just check it right here, or if you want to know more about this, you can comment below and I can make a video especially about that, how React works inside. Let me know about it. Our ReactJS app today is a motivational app with code from different authors. It will display a card with this code, and in this card you will have a button where you can click and it will update the code inside the card. So let's just start coding. First we need to set up your environment if you don't have it yet. So you need to install Node.js. Just go to the official Node.js website and install. This allows us to run packages and build our application. Also, you need to download the Visual Studio Code. That's the editor that I will be using to code here. If you have another, you can use it, but I like to use Visual Code. Also, for our project, we will use Vite. You don't actually need to download anything, but I like to say that Vite is a build tool that helps us on the building of our project. It helps us on things like hot reloading. When we are changing, we don't need to reload the page to see the changes that we make. So it helps us boost our productivity. So it's a very good tool and I like to use it. After you have downloaded everything, Node.js and Visual Studio Code, let's start by creating our project. To create our project with React and have the app running, it's very simple. So you can just come to a folder where you want to create the project, and you can hit here CMD. This will open the terminal, the common terminal, and let's use Node.js to create our app. You can just type npm create vite at latest, and then the name of your app I'm gonna call codes app, and then react-template react. When you hit enter, this will create your project using ReactJS with Vite. React. I don't want a TypeScript right now, so let's just go for JavaScript. In the future, we're gonna add TypeScript to this project because it's a very good thing. But since I want you to focus on React, I don't want to put TypeScript right now. JavaScript. Great, it is created. Let's test it. So let's enter inside this folder that we have created. You can also see here the code apps was created. So cd codes-app npm I. This will just install all the dependencies that we have on this project. It may take some time to install the dependencies. If you want, you can pause this video and continue later on. In my case, it has already installed. So let's just run npm run dev. This will run our application. We already have a React application running. This was pretty easy, pretty fast, and you can already start building your project. Let's go to the page and check it out. Localhost py.react. Here we have a simple application account. We can do this when you click, it is changing the counter. It's already working. Now let's continue building our application for real. Open your Visual Studio Code, go to File, Open Folder, and you choose the folder that we just created. I have a folder in the desktop called Projects, and my app is just here. I can click, I'm gonna open the folder, select folder, and it has just opened the project for me. You can trust the authors if it prompts to you. So we have our project running and the code. Very quickly here, our app is a front-end app where we have this div here. It calls everything inside it. So ReactJS calls main.jsx inside that index.html file on the root div, and then we have this app here. The app here is already a box, it's already a component. When you hit F12 and go inside it, we can see there's a function here where this is happening. Let's just change everything here, and I can say h1 hello world and save it. It already changed it there. We are changing the application. Let's clean the things before we start. So we can just come here and take this out. App.css, we can also take this out. Index.css, let's just take everything out. App index main. Assets, we are not using assets anymore. You can just delete this folder. The assets folder is something if you need images, if you have icons, you can put some things there. We also have the node modules. Here are all the packages that we need to make an application running, external packages. When we run npm install, everything goes here. Public folder, we can also have SVGs, icons, but main of our code will be here on the source folder. Let me close everything. Now that we have cleaned our project, let's just start. Just for you that you don't know about, CSS put all our styling of the app. JSX is the function, is the component itself, is the box. It uses markup, it is these tags for us to create the component. That's why it's JSX, not JS. In ReactJS, you'll hear a lot about JSX. That's what it's about. So keep that in mind. We're gonna just work on the app.css right now. Let's just start by coming to the source folder and creating a folder called components. Here we will put our cards and all other components that we might have in our application, and we're gonna have another folder called code card. Something might happen here. So if you want your tree structure to stay like mine, you have to do some configuration. So you can just hit Ctrl+Shift+P and go to Preference, open user settings, and in your user settings you have to set this explorer.compact folders to false. If it is true, it will be like this. I don't like this. It's just when you have only one folder, only one file at the folder, but I don't like this, so I will put false here. Now it's in a trivial. Let's move on. Let's create our code card. So first we need the component card, the component file. So code card.jsx, and here we write a function called code card that returns a component. It will return a div we can do dot and the class name, it will be code card. It's already a div, right? And then we can do another div, will be code text. And then we will have another div. I just hit Shift Alt and the arrow down, it just copied it for you. So I will give you some hotkey tips if you like. And this will be code author. Also, these two, Ctrl D, I'm selecting all the divs words that I found, will be P, not div. And then we already have our card. This is our structure, and we can already add a code, right? So let's take this one from Theodore Roosevelt. Believe you can, and you are halfway there. Oh, that's beautiful. Author Theodore Roosevelt. You can write anything you want. We already have our code card, right? That's great. What we need to do now is call this code card inside our app. So let's do this. We come here and we say code card. I think I forgot something. I have to export. In order to call this component on the other page, I have to say export default. You can see that GitHub Copilot is already complementing this for me, but yeah, that's exactly what I want to do. Great. It's not working because I have to export here and import here. So import code card from and the file path. Great, it's already here. Believe you can, and you are halfway there. Let's make it a little better. Let's put a title here and say motivational codes. That's nice. Just for you to notice, sometimes we don't have to manually import this. We have some visual code extensions that will help us on doing this. If you want a video about my visual code extensions to help boost productivity, comment below and I can make this video for you. We already have our card there. So just for us to get the feeling of our app, let's make it look a little better. So let's go to our index.css and I'll apply some CSS to that. This one here. The idea here is not learning CSS. If you want to learn CSS for me, just hit the comment and I can make a video of that too as well. But this is our CSS, the simple CSS. It's already a little more beautiful. Let's also go to our app.css and add something to our title. It's already better. And also let's add some styling to our code card, For this we have to create a file here and call codecard.css. And I will add some CSS that I already have here. If you have any questions about it, you can also ask me. And nothing happened because I have to import my CSS file here. So I say import codecard.css. Thank you, Copilot. We already have a card, so we already have a feeling on how this is going, and this is great. The next thing we want to do, we want these codes here not to be always this one and saying for the author, right? We want them to change. So let's do this first in our app. Let's create a variable const codes, and these codes will have the code and the author. So they will be objects like this. So they will have a code. It can be believe the same, and an author. It can be Theodore Roosevelt. Copilot is helping me a lot. That's great. I love that. By the way, it is free to use Copilot. So if you want to know more about the power of Copilot, I will leave the link in the description for you to check this video out. We already have our code here, but we need more. So I have some codes here that we can use. You can put as many as you want. We have about 10 around here. We already have our codes. And what we need to do now is our code card needs to accept these codes, right? And use it inside it. That's what we call props. So I want to come here and say code card, use this code with this author here. And we're gonna change code card for that. It's pretty simple. I can just come here and say that code card, you should accept code and author. And instead of just writing the code here, I will use this variable. But in order for this variable to work, it should be in braces. Author, same idea, braces. Now I have nothing because I'm not passing anything to this component right now. So I need to come here and say your code is this code, and the author is this author. It's already there, it is working. Now we need to pass one of these codes to this props here. This is the concept of props. So every time you learn about props, properties of a component, that's what we are talking about. In this case, the code card has two properties, two props, code and author, and we are using them. So very quickly, what I want to do here is I want to pass a random code of this collection of codes that I have, and Copilot is already suggesting this, so you can just say cons random codes math.floor math.random. That's our built-in functions that we have, and you can multiply by the length of the code so that we have always a number that is inside the quantity, the length of codes. So here we have a random code. So every time my app refresh this random code, we have a different value. So as I refresh, it has a different value. So we can just come here and say, okay, this is random code dot code, and this random code author is here. The only way to do great work is to love what you do. Steve Jobs, Wayne Gretzky, Roy Band, Wayne Gretzky again, Dalai Lama, John Lennon. Now every time we refresh the page, it is changing its codes. We already have our app running. Let's do some more improvements. Now let's say that we want to add a button here, that every time I click on that button, this word change, this code changes. And let's do this. Let's add an icon. To be more beautiful, we can do this with an icon, not just with a word. For icons, I like to use FontAwesome, and I will especially use refresh icon. You can just come to fontawesome.com. To set up, you have to create a free account, and then you choose a kit. Like, it's very step guided, so you just guide the steps on the platform. It's free to use, and you have a bunch of icons that you can use, so just follow that. When you create your account, you have a kit. With this kit, you have a link, and with this link, you just add it to your project the icons that you want to use. Yeah, so after you have your FontAwesome kit set up, your account, you come to index.html and you will paste your script right here. It's a script tag, the same as this one here, but it will have the link to your kit in the FontAwesome. You can use it for free, and it's a very good library that I like to use here. I have already imported my script on the index.html, and right now we can start using the icon. For that, we will have an I tag to use this icon. The class name of the icon, we will refer the FontAwesome icon. So we can say FA solid is the type of icon that we have. FA arrows rotate is the name of the icon. FA XL, this is the size of the icon. Let's just close it. Let's see here, save it. It's already there, it's working. That we have our icon there. Let's add some styling to this icon to be better looking. So I'm gonna add a class here called refresh icon, and for that class, on my code card CSS, I'm gonna add some styling. So the color will be green, and when I hover, it will have an effect, a little effect of changing the cursor of my mouse and changing the color of the icon. Nice. Our icon's already there. We need to update the quote and the author every time we click on the icon. So this icon should have a function, and this function will update. Since our codes are all inside the app, our update function should be here, and we will pass this function to code card as a prop. So every time I click, this function is called. So let's do this. Let's go inside code card, and here we will have an on refresh function, and we can call this here in on click HTML parameter on refresh. So every time I click on the icon, this on refresh function will be called. Nothing is happening right now because we are not passing this prop to the code card yet, but it will be something like on refresh. And we can even test and say, let's call the function alert and say hi every time I click. Hi, it is working every time I click. It's calling this function called on refresh. Let's change this function to a real function. So I'm gonna say handle on refresh. I like to use handle every time that this is about a user activity that is going to another component. So that's something that I like to use. Function handle on refresh. Every time this happens, compile is already a suggestion. Every time the component renders, it is changing the code. So if we refresh the page, it changes. So we can just say refresh the page. So when you click on refresh, you say window.location.reload. It means refresh the page. It's working. Let's see here. It is working now. But just pay attention that when we click here, it is refreshing the whole page. You can see here on the icon. And we don't need that. It is working, but we can make it better. Why don't we just render this component again? Or the component again, not just the whole page. This helps us on performance. And for this behavior, we will use some concepts on React that we use all the time. To start, we need to have a function that every time we click, it updates our quote. We need to store the information of our quote, and every time the user clicks, it will change this information. So the information will be updated based on user input. Every time this happens, we use something called useState hook. Hooks are functions in React that help us manage state. And states are pieces of information that are changed due to user behavior. It can be a click, it can be an input on the keyboard, it can be a drag and drop. Anything that user do that changes information should be managed by states. So let's create a state to manage our code. So the state is created in this way. Const, the name of the state, we can say random code, and the function that updates the state every time something happens, it's right away. And we have a convention that we say state, and the function will be set and the name of the state. To call this hook, we say useState is the name of the hook. So this is the useState hook, and this is our state here. Let's just comment here because it's duplicating right now. And also we have to import this state. So we say import useState from React. So it's a built-in hook in React. It helps us managing states. But right now, random code has nothing, right? We're already using the state. And just for you to understand, this value here is the initial value of the state. Every time it renders, this is the first value that goes inside the state. Now, we need a function to update this value here with the values of code. So we can create this function and we can call function update random code, or it can be just update code. This function will pretty much do this, and it can return random code. Yeah, so that's it. Right now we are not calling update code and it has nothing here, but just for you to see, this is the initial value. You see, it's always this. Since we are not updating, this is not working anymore. We're not updating our code, but we have the initial value. Let's set to an empty object. Now we need to call update code every time we click on the refresh button. Update code, we are already calling, and we need to set random code with the information that it's returning on update code. So we use set random code. How? Set random quote update quote. So every time that you want to update a state, use the setter function. So here you say set random quote, and you can do anything that you want. This value will be the next random quote value. So I'm just updating random quote with the value returning from update quote. Now the refresh button is gonna work. Yeah, that's great. But you've noticed that we have a problem. Every time we first render our application, it's coming nothing, because here the state is empty and we are not updating the state while when we render the object. Let's solve this problem with another very good concept of React. It's another hook called useEffect. We use useState to manage states changes, and every time we need to store information that will be changed by the user and update that. useEffect, it's a hook that will be looking at the state that you want, and every time the state changes, it will do an action. It will do something for us. So let's call our useEffect hook useEffect. This is the syntax for it, and inside these brackets here, we just put what's the state that we want to take a look to be following. For us to test, let's say alert changed. So every time random code changes, do this. Refresh. It changed it, great. It changed it twice because it was rendering. So the first render, the state is created and changed for nothing, right? For this value here. So it's working. Now let's click. Changed. Click. Changed. It is working. So every time random code changed, we do this. But what we really want now is the first time this component renders, we want the value of random code to be defined. So we can come here and say set random code, update code. But we want this to happen only on the first time, because if we set it every time it changes, this will be an infinite loop. So we have to be careful with that. So we can just erase this here. So when you have a useEffect on a component and this is empty, it is just saying do this for the first time the component renders, and that's it. Saved, refresh. Now we have a state here. Refresh, a state here. So when we refresh the page, it comes to this useEffect because here is empty just one time, and it puts the first code that we have. When we click, it's already changing, and when we refresh, it gets the first one again. Fantastic! You've just built your own motivational quotes app in under 30 minutes. Congratulations for that! With this app, we learned the basics of ReactJS, how to set up a project and create a project, the basic structure of a file. Also, we learned how to create new component, style this component. We learned about props, how to correctly pass props and use them as information or functions. And also, we learned about two very important hooks in ReactJS: useState to manage information that can be changed by the user, and useEffect to monitor this information and do something every time this changes. These are very good concepts in ReactJS, and now I'm sure you are ready to build your own application and do more things with this information. Also, this project is available on my GitHub page. The link is in the description, so you can go and check it out. And if you have any questions about anything that we talked here, or you want a more specific video about any topic, comment below, let me know. I answer all the comments and I will help you on your tech journey. Happy coding and see you in our next video.